the redwood forests of Northern California, as the Zephyrian shuttle descended toward Earth's Global Wildlife University. Unlike the sterile docking bays of space stations, this landing site was carved into a living hillside where Douglas firs towered overhead, and the scent of earth and pine filled the air. The contrast couldn't have been starker. Instead of the cold metal corridors the Zephyrians knew, they found themselves walking on pathways lined with flowering dogwoods and native ferns. HFY, the lead exchange student, stepped off the shuttle with the fluid grace of a born hunter. His reptilian features golden scales that shifted color with his mood, vertical pupils that could dilate to capture the faintest light, and razor-sharp claws that clicked against the stone pathway, marked him as a member of the Zephyrian Empire's warrior caste. Behind him, 4 other students followed. Cyrenex, whose bioluminescent patches flickered with nervous energy. Thane Cole, built like a tank with reinforced bone plating. Ythmir, whose sensory tendrils constantly tasted the air for threats. And Vox Len, the smallest but fastest of the group, her hunting reflexes honed to deadly precision. This is their center of learning? HFY's voice carried the typical Zephyrian mixture of curiosity and disdain. His translator rendered his words in perfect English, but couldn't mask the predatory undertones. It smells of ... life. Uncontrolled life. Doctor. Sarah Chun approached them with a warm smile, her hiking boots crunching on the gravel path. At 52, she had spent 3 decades studying predator-prey relationships across 6 continents. But the Zephyrians were her first truly alien students. Her weathered hands and sun-lined face spoke of countless hours in the field, tracking everything from Arctic wolves to African leopards. "Welcome to Earth," she said, extending her hand in the human greeting. The Zephyrians stared at the gesture showing an open palm to a potential threat went against every instinct they possessed. "I'm Dr. Chun, and I'll be your guide to understanding Earth's predatory ecosystems." Cyrenex's bioluminescent patches pulsed red with amusement. "Predatory ecosystems? We've conquered 12 star systems, Professor. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. What could your little planet possibly teach us?" The other students chittered their agreement, a sound like breaking glass that served as Zephyrian laughter. They had studied Earth's wildlife databases during their journey. Primitive mammals, simple hunting strategies, nothing that could match the sophisticated killing machines of their homeworld. Dr. Chun's smile never wavered. "That's exactly what we're here to find out. Your orientation materials mentioned that you're particularly interested in apex predators. We have quite a few of those here." As they walked toward the main research facility, the Zephyrians' confidence radiated from every stride. They spoke in their native tongue, their words punctuated by dismissive gestures toward the Earth wildlife they glimpsed. A red-tailed hawk circling overhead, a family of deer grazing in a distant meadow, a raccoon washing its paws in a stream. "Look at them," Thane Cole rumbled, his massive frame casting shadows on the path. No armor, no natural weapons, no pack coordination. How did such weak creatures survive long enough to evolve intelligence? "Perhaps," Ythmir suggested, her tendrils picking up the scent of a nearby coyote. "The humans are the apex predators here, though they seem ... soft." The research facility itself was a marvel of integration, with nature solar panels disguised as leaves, walls that seemed to grow from the hillside, and observation decks that offered panoramic views of the surrounding wilderness. But what caught the Zephyrians' attention were the photographs lining the corridors, images of Earth's great predators in action. "Tomorrow," Dr. Chun announced as they reached their dormitory, "we'll begin with a field study. I think you'll find our local apex predators quite ... educational." That night, as the Zephyrians settled into their quarters, they shared stories of the Shadow Maws, the legendary predators of their homeworld. Creatures of living darkness that could phase through solid matter, hunt in perfect silence, and kill. With a single strike. No Zephyrian had ever defeated one in single combat and lived to tell about it. Whatever they show us tomorrow, Kethvar declared, his golden scales shifting to a confident bronze, it will be nothing compared to what we faced at home. Outside their windows, the Earth night came alive with sounds they didn't recognize. Distant howl of wolves, the screech of an owl, the rustle of something large moving through the underbrush. Sounds that spoke of predators they had yet to meet. Asterisk. The Oakland Zoo's Big Cat Sanctuary sprawled across 15 acres of carefully maintained habitat, designed to mimic the natural environments of the world's great predators. Dr. Chun led the Zephyrian students along the observation pathway, past enclosures housing jaguars, leopards, and lions. The aliens' reactions were predictably dismissive. "These are your apex predators?" Vaux Len's voice carried a sharp edge of disappointment. She had been expecting something that might challenge her lightning-fast reflexes, not creatures that seemed to spend most of their time sleeping in the sun. They look ... comfortable. Domesticated, Cyrenex added, her bioluminescent patches flickering with boredom. Where are their territories? Their hunting grounds? How do they maintain their killing edge in these prisons? Dr. Chun nodded thoughtfully. These are sanctuary animals rescues from circuses, private owners, and rehabilitation cases. They're not representative of wild predators. But I thought you should see them first to understand the baseline. The group paused at the lion enclosure, where a massive male was grooming himself with methodical precision. Thane Cole studied the creature with professional interest, noting the muscle definition beneath the golden fur, the size of the paws, the development of the jaw muscles. Impressive specimen, he admitted grudgingly. Perhaps 50 kilograms lighter than a shadow maw, but the bone structure suggests significant bite force. Still, the lack of natural camouflage would make it useless in a real hunt. And the mane, Ythmer observed, her sensory tendrils twitching with analysis. Such a prominent feature would announce its presence to any prey within kilometers. Evolutionary dead end. Dr. Chun pulled out her tablet, scrolling through files of high-resolution photographs. Lions are actually pack hunters, like your ancestors. They coordinate attacks, use strategy, and have a success rate of about 30% on hunts. But, you're right, they're not our most efficient predators. She swiped to the next series of images, and the Zephyrian's dismissive chatter died abruptly. The photographs showed a creature that was immediately, viscerally familiar, orange and black stripes that seemed to shift and blur even in still images, a face that was both beautiful and terrifying, eyes that held an intelligence that made their primitive brains scream warnings. "This," Dr. Chun said quietly, "is a Siberian tiger, the largest cat on Earth." Kethvar's golden scales shifted to a deep amber, a color that indicated serious attention. "The markings," he said slowly, "they're not random. They're designed to break up the visual outline, to confuse prey about the creature's actual size and position. Just like a shadow maw," Cyrenex whispered, her bioluminescent patches dimming to almost nothing. Zephyrian fear response. Dr. Chun swiped through more images. Tigers stalking through tall grass, their stripes rendering them nearly invisible. Tigers launching themselves across impossible distances. Tigers taking down prey 3 times their size with surgical precision. Each image drove home the same point. These were not the lazy, overfed sanctuary animals they had just observed. A wild tiger, Dr. Chun explained, hunts alone. No pack support, no backup, no second chances. They have to be perfect predators because they get one opportunity to make a kill, and if they fail, they starve. Vaux Len's hunting reflexes were screaming at her as she studied the images. Every instinct honed by millennia of Zephyrian evolution was telling her that this creature was dangerous beyond measure. "The proportions," she said, her voice tight with recognition. The hind-quarter development, the shoulder muscle mass, the length of the killing claws, it's almost identical to a shadow maw's design. Convergent evolution, Dr. Chun confirmed, when similar environmental pressures produce similar solutions. Tigers and your shadow maws appear to have evolved along remarkably parallel lines. Fane Cole's bone plating was unconsciously shifting into a defensive configuration. You said these are the largest cats on Earth. How many of them are there? How do humans survive in territories controlled by such predators? Dr. Chun's expression grew somber. That's the thing, we don't live in territories controlled by tigers. We control the territories. There are fewer than 4,000 Siberian tigers left in the wild, and they're scattered across remote areas of Russia and China. They're an endangered species. The word endangered hit the Zephyrians like a physical blow. In their language, it meant dying out or becoming extinct. The idea that a perfect predator, something that could match their legendary shadow maws, was disappearing was incomprehensible. You single quotes re ... You're not afraid of them? Yithmare asked, her tendrils drooping with confusion. We think they're magnificent, Dr. Chun replied. Some of the most beautiful creatures on Earth. We're working very hard to save them. The Zephyrians exchanged glances, their confidence beginning to crack. If humans considered creatures equivalent to shadow maws to be endangered animals worthy of protection, rather than apex predators to be feared, what did that say about humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy? Tomorrow, Dr. Chun announced, we'll see them in action. The thermal imaging footage filled the wall-mounted screen in the university's advanced observation theater. Dr. Chun had dimmed the lights to simulate the conditions of a Siberian winter. Night, where temperatures dropped to minus 40 degrees Celsius and the forest became a black and white world of survival. This was recorded last winter in the Sikot Allen Biosphere Reserve. Dr. Chun explained, her voice taking on the hushed tone of a wildlife documentarian. A tiger is a female, approximately 180 kilograms, hunting alone in territory that spans roughly 400 square kilometers. The Zephyrian students leaned forward in their seats, their predatory instincts fully engaged. On the screen, a white-hot signature moved through the snow-covered forest with impossible grace. Even through the thermal imaging, they could see the controlled power in every step, the way the tiger's body seemed to flow like liquid through the underbrush. Watch her breathing, Dr. Chun instructed. See how she controls her exhalations to avoid creating visible vapor clouds? In sub-zero temperatures, that kind of breath control is the difference between success and starvation. Cyrenex's bioluminescent patches had gone completely dark, a Zephyrian response to witnessing superior predation. The thermal discipline, she whispered. It's better than military-grade stealth training. The tiger on screen froze, her massive head turning toward something beyond the camera's view. For 30 seconds, she remained absolutely motionless, a 180-kilogram apex predator, rendered invisible by sheer stillness. Then, with a fluidity that defied physics, she began to move. She's detected wild boar, Dr. Chun explained. Adult males, approximately 300 kilograms each, with tusks that can disembowel a human. They're feeding about 200 meters ahead. The Zephyrians watched in growing amazement as the tiger began her stalk. Every movement was calculated, every step placed with surgical precision. She moved like a shadow-given form, her massive paws finding purchase on frozen ground without making a sound. Impossible, Cathvar breathed. Something that size cannot move in perfect silence. The ground vibrations alone should alert the prey. Tigers have evolved specialized paw pads, Dr. Chun explained, calling up an anatomical diagram on a secondary screen. They're designed to distribute weight evenly and absorb sound. She's essentially become a 180-kilogram ghost. The hunt continued for another 10 minutes, the tiger closing the distance with patience that bordered on the supernatural. When she was within 20 meters of her prey, she stopped again, her body coiling like a spring. The boars continued to feed, completely unaware of the death that crouched in the shadows. "Now watch her launch," Dr. Chun said. Tigers can accelerate from 0 to 60 kilometers per hour in less than 3 seconds. The explosion of movement on screen was so sudden and violent that several of the Zephyrians actually flinched. The tiger transformed from motionless statue to unstoppable force of nature in the span of a heartbeat. Her powerful hindquarters drove her forward with mechanical precision, her front paws extended like grappling hooks, her jaws already opening to deliver the killing bite. The boar never had a chance. The tiger's claws found purchase in its shoulders, her weight driving it to the ground, her jaws clamping down on its neck with a force that could crush bone. The entire attack lasted less than 5 seconds. Bite force of approximately 1,000 pounds per square inch, Dr. Chun noted clinically. Delivered with surgical precision to sever the spinal cord. Death is instantaneous. Vox lens hunting reflexes were screaming at her. Everything about the tiger's attack spoke to the apex predator within her Zephyrian DNA. The patience, the explosive power, the perfect execution, it was flawless predation. "The success rate?" Thang Cole asked, his voice tight with professional respect. "What percentage of hunts end successfully? For solitary tigers? About 90% when they reach the final attack phase. They can't afford to fail a missed. Hunt means days without food, and injured prey means potential retaliation." The Zephyrians sat in stunned silence. Their legendary shadow maws, the creatures that had terrorized their homeworld for millennia, had a success rate of only 60%. This Earth predator was not just equivalent to their most feared hunters. It was superior. "There's more," Dr. Chun said, switching to daytime footage. "This is the same tiger, hunting in completely different conditions." The new footage showed the tiger in summer, her orange and black stripes blending perfectly with the dappled sunlight filtering through the forest canopy. She was stalking a different prey, a red deer that stood nearly as tall as she did, with antlers that could gore a human. Different prey requires different tactics, Dr. Chun explained as they watched the tiger adapt her hunting style. Against deer, she can't rely on pure power. She needs to be faster, more agile, more intelligent. The hunt that followed was a masterclass in adaptive predation. The tiger used the terrain to her advantage, herding the deer toward a natural bottleneck, where its speed advantage would be neutralized. She anticipated the deer's escape routes, positioning herself to cut off retreat. When she finally struck, it was with a precision that left the Zephyrian speechless. "She's thinking," Ythmer whispered, her sensory tendrils trembling with recognition. "Not just following instinct. She's planning, adapting, solving problems in real time." Intelligence is often the difference between good predators and great ones, Dr. Chun agreed. Tigers are problem solvers. They learn from each hunt, adapt their strategies, and pass successful techniques to their offspring. As the footage ended, the Zephyrians found themselves facing an uncomfortable truth. The creatures they had dismissed as Earth's primitive predators were not only capable of matching their legendary shadow maws, they were demonstrably superior in almost every measurable way. "Professor," Kethvar said quietly, his golden scales now a deep purple of contemplation, "you said these tigers are endangered. If they're such perfect predators, what threatens them?" Dr. Chun's smile was sad. "The same thing that threatens all apex predators in the modern world. Humans." Asterisk, the rehabilitation center sat nestled in the Cascade Mountains, its buildings designed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding forest. Dr. Chun had arranged for the Zephyrian students to meet Marcus Rodriguez, a wildlife biologist who had spent 15 years working directly with rescued tigers. As their vehicle pulled up to the facility, the aliens could hear sounds that made their predatory instincts scream warnings, the low rumble of big cats calling to each other, the scrape of claws on wood, the heavy footfalls of apex predators moving through their enclosures. "Remember," Dr. Chun said as they stepped out of the vehicle, "these are rescue animals. They've been traumatized by human contact, so they're often more aggressive than wild tigers. Marcus works with them daily." The Zephyrians' first glimpse of Marcus Rodriguez shattered every preconception they had about human-predator relationships. He was a compact man in his 40s, with graying hair and arms covered in scars that spoke of close encounters with claws and teeth. What stunned the aliens was his casual confidence as he approached the tiger enclosures. No fear, no defensive posturing, just the easy stride of someone completely comfortable in the presence of apex predators. "You must be the Zephyrians," Marcus said, extending his hand in greeting. "Sarah's told me a lot about you. Ready to meet some real tigers?" Cathvar's golden scales flickered with nervousness. "You work with them directly? The creatures we saw in the footage?" "These are a bit different," Marcus replied, leading them toward the first enclosure. "Most of our residents are former circus animals or private pets. They've been through trauma, so they're often more unpredictable than wild tigers. But yes, I work with them every day." The first enclosure contained a massive male Siberian tiger named Sasha. At 250 kilograms, he was larger than any of the tigers they had seen in the footage, his orange and black stripes rippling over muscles that seemed carved from stone. The Zephyrians instinctively stepped back as he approached the reinforced fence, his amber eyes studying them with predatory interest. Sasha here was rescued from a private collector who kept him in a basement for 8 years, Marcus explained, his voice carrying genuine affection. "He's got trust issues, but he's learning to be a tiger again." What happened next defied every principle of predator-prey interaction the Zephyrians had ever learned. Marcus approached the fence, and Sasha's massive head turned toward him. For a moment, 250 kilograms of apex predator and one vulnerable human stared at each other through the chain link. Then Sasha made a sound the aliens had never heard before, a low, rumbling chuff that seemed to express contentment. "He's communicating with it," Cyranex whispered, her bioluminescent patches flickering with confusion. "The predator is acknowledging the human as, what? Pack leader? Dominant hunter?" "Neither," Marcus said, having overheard her comment. "He's greeting me. Tigers have a complex social vocabulary when they want to use it." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of meat, tossing it toward Sasha. The tiger caught it effortlessly, his jaws closing around the offering with a sound like a steel trap slamming shut. The casual display of bite force made all 5 Zephyrians take another step back. "The relationship between humans and tigers is complicated," Marcus continued, moving to the next enclosure. "We're not prey, we're not competitors, and we're not packmates. We're something else entirely. Species that can choose to be predators or protectors." The next enclosure contained a female tiger named Anya, smaller than Sasha, but somehow more intimidating. Her eyes held an intelligence that made the Zephyrians' primitive brains scream warnings. She watched them with the patient focus of a hunter, evaluating potential prey. "Anya was used for illegal fighting," Marcus explained. "She's killed before other tigers, bears, even a few humans who got too close. She's what we call a problem tiger." Thane Cole's bone plating was shifting into full defensive mode. "And you work with her? How are you not dead?" Marcus smiled, and did something that made the Zephyrian's heart stop. He opened the outer gate of the enclosure and stepped into the safety corridor that separated him from 180 kilograms of proven man-killer by nothing more than a single fence. "Because," he said, reaching through the fence to scratch behind Anya's ears. She chooses not to kill me. The tiger's response was immediate and overwhelming. She pressed her massive head against the fence, her eyes closing in what could only be described as pleasure. The rumbling purr that emerged from her throat was like a diesel engine running at idle, sound that vibrated through the Zephyrians' bones and triggered every fear response in their genetic memory. This is impossible, Vox Len breathed. Apex predators don't form social bonds with other species. They don't show affection. They don single quotes T.purr. Tigers are solitary hunters, Marcus agreed, but they're also intelligent enough to form complex relationships when it benefits them. Anya knows I'm not a threat. She also knows I'm the one who brings her food, provides her medical care, and gives her the attention she craves. He stepped back from the fence, and Anya's eyes snapped open, tracking his movement with predatory precision. For a moment, the illusion of domestic tranquility shattered, and the Zephyrian saw her for what she truly was, a perfect killing machine that had chosen, for reasons of her own, to tolerate human presence. The relationship could end at any moment, Marcus acknowledged. Tigers are still wild animals, even in captivity. They're not pets, they're not friends, and they're certainly not safe. But they're also not mindless killing machines. They're intelligent, emotional creatures capable of making complex decisions. As they moved through the facility, the Zephyrians encountered more examples of the impossible relationship between humans and apex predators. Tigers who had been rescued from illegal trades, rehabilitated from injuries, and cared for by humans, who dedicated their lives to protecting creatures that could kill them without effort. On our homeworld, Kethvar said slowly, we have legends of humans who could work with shadow maws. We always assumed they were myths. Maybe they weren't, Dr. Chon suggested. Maybe some humans have always had the ability to form relationships with apex predators. It might be one of our defining characteristics as a species. The final enclosure contained the facility's newest resident, a young tiger cub named Hope, orphaned when her mother was killed by poachers. She had been rescued at 6 weeks old and raised by human caretakers. At 8 months, she was still small enough to be managed by humans, but her adult teeth were already developing, and her playful swipes could leave serious wounds. She's never known the wild, Marcus explained as they watched the cub play with an enrichment toy. She thinks humans are just big, weird tigers. In 2 years, she'll be too dangerous for direct contact, but she'll still remember us. She'll still choose not to kill us. The Zephyrian stood in stunned silence, watching a creature that would grow up to be a perfect predator playing like a house cat. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. These were the same species they had seen hunting with lethal efficiency. Yet here they were, being cared for by the very species that should have been their natural prey. Professor, Ythmer asked quietly, what does this say about humans? About your species' relationship with predators? Dr. Chun considered the question carefully. I think it says that humans are the strangest predators on Earth. We're the only species that actively protects our competitors. As they prepared to leave the facility, the Zephyrians found themselves looking at their human guides with new eyes. These weren't the soft, defenseless creatures they had initially dismissed. These were members of a species that had not only survived alongside apex predators, but had evolved to become their prey, protectors of a relationship that defied every law of natural selection. They understood. The uncomfortable truth was beginning to dawn on them. If humans could form working relationships with creatures equivalent to shadow maws, what did that make humans themselves? Part 5. The revelation, the final day of the exchange program, brought the Zephyrians to the California Academy of Sciences, where Dr. Chun had arranged for them to view the museum's comprehensive collection of Earth's predatory species. The hall of biodiversity stretched before them like a cathedral of evolution, its walls lined with exhibits showcasing the planet's most successful hunters. "Before we conclude your visit," Dr. Chon said, leading them through the galleries, "I want you to understand the full scope of what we've been discussing. Tigers are remarkable, but they're just one example of Earth's predatory evolution. The first display case contained specimens of Earth's aquatic apex predators. The Zephyrians found themselves staring at the preserved remains of a great white shark, its rows of serrated teeth gleaming under the museum lights. The information placard described bite forces exceeding 1,800 pounds per square inch and hunting strategies that had remained unchanged for 100 million years. "Sharks," Cyrenex read aloud, her bioluminescent patches flickering with recognition. "Another endangered species. How many apex predators does your world have that humans protect rather than fear?" "More than you might think," Dr. Chun replied. Moving to the next display. Polar bears, the largest land predators on Earth, capable of killing seals through 3 feet of ice. Saltwater crocodiles ambush predators that can remain motionless for hours before striking with mechanical precision. Golden eagles, aerial hunters that can spot prey from 5 kilometers away and dive at speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. Each display drove home the same point. Earth was a world of apex predators, creatures that had evolved to fill every possible predatory niche. Yet instead of being dominated by these perfect killing machines, humans had somehow risen to become their protectors. "The pattern is consistent," Cathvar observed, his golden scales now a deep purple of contemplation. "Humans don't compete with apex predators. You manage them, like a species that has transcended the normal predator-prey relationship." They moved to the primate section, where displays showed the evolutionary history of humans and their closest relatives. The Zephyrians studied the progression from early hominids to modern humans, noting the development of tool use, social cooperation, and eventually technology. "Your species evolved alongside all of these predators," Thane-Cole said, his voice carrying a new respect. "You didn't start as apex predators yourselves. You became something else entirely." Dr. Chon nodded. "Humans are persistence hunters. We're not the fastest, strongest, or most heavily armed predators on Earth, but we're the most adaptable. We learn to outlast our prey, to work together, to use tools, and eventually to reshape entire ecosystems." The final display was the most unsettling of all. It showed the current status of Earth's megafauna, the great predators that had once dominated the planet. Species after species was marked with the same designation: endangered, threatened, or extinct. The pattern was clear and undeniable. Wherever humans had established themselves, the apex predators had declined. "We're not just protectors, Doctor," Chun said quietly. "We're also the greatest threat these creatures have ever faced. Human expansion, habitat destruction, climate change, we've pushed most of Earth's great predators to the brink of extinction." Voxlen's hunting instincts were screaming as she processed this information. "You're saying that humans are what? Super predators? The apex of apex predators?" "I'm saying that humans are something new in evolutionary terms. We're a species that has become capable of controlling entire ecosystems, of deciding which species live and which die. We're not just predators, we're gardeners on a planetary scale." The weight of this revelation settled over the Zephyrians like a physical force. They had come to Earth expecting to find primitive hunters, perhaps worthy of mild academic interest. Instead, they had discovered a species that had transcended the normal rules of predator-prey relationships to become something unprecedented in galactic history. "The tigers," Cyrenex said slowly, "they're not just endangered because of habitat loss. They're endangered because humans could eliminate them entirely if you chose to." "But we don't choose to," Dr. Chun replied. "That's what makes us human. We have the power to destroy, but we choose to protect. were working to save tigers, sharks, bears, wolves, all the creatures that our ancestors once feared. As they prepared to leave the museum, the Zephyrians found themselves reassessing everything they thought they knew about galactic hierarchy. The humans they had initially dismissed as soft and primitive were revealed to be members of a species that had evolved beyond traditional predation to become something entirely new: ecosystem engineers with the power to preserve or destroy at will. "There's one more thing you should know," Dr. Chun said as they reached the shuttle that would return them to their ship. "Humans don't just protect Earth's predators. We're fascinated by them. We study them. We admire them. We write stories about them. Some humans even choose to work with dangerous predators as a career." She handed each of them a data tablet containing research papers, documentaries, and conservation reports. "This is everything we know about predator-prey relationships on Earth. Take it back to your people. Maybe it will help you understand why we're so interested in forming alliances with other species." As the shuttle lifted off, carrying them back to their star-traveling vessel, the Zephyrians sat in contemplative silence. They had come to Earth as conquering representatives of the galaxy's apex predators, confident in their superiority. They were returning as humbled students of a species that had redefined what it meant to be a predator. Cathvar spoke first, his golden scales now a deep blue of profound respect. "We need to reconsider our understanding of predation and our assumptions about human capabilities. They're not just another prey species," Ythmer agreed. "They're something entirely new. A species that has learned to transcend traditional predator-prey relationships." As Earth dwindled behind them, the Zephyrian students began composing their reports for the Empire. The message would be clear. Humanity was not a species to be conquered or dismissed. They were potential allies in a universe where the old rules of predation might no longer apply. The tigers, sharks, bears, and wolves of Earth had taught them something profound about the nature of power and protection. Sometimes the greatest predators were not those who killed the most efficiently, but those who chose when not to kill at all. Their homeworld's shadow maws were still the stuff of nightmares. But now the Zephyrians understood that there were different kinds of apex predators in the universe. Some conquered through strength and fear. Others, like humans, conquered through intelligence, adaptability, and the revolutionary concept of choosing protection over domination. The exchange program had succeeded beyond all expectations. The Zephyrians had learned about Earth's predators, but more importantly, they had learned about humanity itself, a species that had evolved beyond the traditional roles of predator and prey to become something unprecedented in the known galaxy. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them back to the Zephyrian Empire, the students carried with them a new understanding of what it meant to be truly apex. It wasn't about being the most feared. It was about being the most capable of choosing how to use that fear. And in that choice, humans had proven themselves to be the most dangerous predators of all. Asterisk.